Welcome back to Crossroads, a show by the Epoch-Times, one of America's largest independent newspapers. Support us and independent journalism by hitting that like button, leave a comment below, and thank you so much for watching. Now look, could Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin be planning to live forever? Immortality they're talking about, or at least until like 150 years old. Well, during a hot mic moment between the two leaders that was live streamed by Chinese state TV, it seems to be that they're discussing it. Watch. Now, here's a bit more context of what they're talking about. Bloomberg says the conversation between Xi, Vladimir Putin, and Kim Jong-un of North Korea was captured on a live feed as the leaders ascended the Tiananmen Gate in Beijing, where they would observe a ceremony marking the 80th anniversary of Japan's defeat in World War II on Wednesday, which I should note the CCP takes credit for. It was mostly fought by the United States in the Kuomintang. The CCP actually barely fought in World War II, but the CCP takes credit for it. It adds here, though, it was first flagged by social media users watching festivities around China's military parade. Further, it says a translator then appeared to relay the Russian leader's remarks, saying in Mandarin, quote, "With the development of biotechnology, human organs can be continuously transplanted and people can live younger and younger and even achieve immortality." They're literally talking about living forever using human organ transplants. It was a separate translator was then heard repeating in Korean a reference to organ transplants. It notes that Xi Jinping then spoke again in Mandarin, and the final comment as the camera cut away, quote, "Predictions are this century there's a chance of also living to 150. Now, that's deeply concerning, given that the CCP harvests organs from prisoners of conscience, killing them literally on demand for their organs. They do this against religious believers. They began expanding into other groups. The Chinese Communist Party regards human beings as like living sources to live forever, apparently. There have also been documented cases of CCP officials getting multiple transplants, like changing the parts in a car that's breaking down to keep it running. And this is also being fueled by an industry that has a kill-on-demand element. They kill people on demand for this. They use religious believers, others, Falun Gong practitioners being the main group they kill for their organs. Now look, also on the CCP meeting, President Donald Trump commented on this, saying that the countries are conspiring against the United States and he knows what they're up to. Trump said this on Truth Social. He said the big question to be answered is whether or not President Xi of China will mention the massive amount of support and blood that the United States of America gave to China in order to help it to secure its freedom from a very unfriendly foreign invader. Of course, referring to World War II and Japan's incursions into most of the Asia-Pacific region. Now, as is known, the Chinese Communist Party barely fought in World War II. The Kuomintang, which is currently the government of Taiwan, or became the government of Taiwan, did most of the fighting in China. They were also not doing very well until the U.S. Marines came in. And the U.S. Marines pushed the Japanese back to their islands, and then the rest is history. Donald Trump noted, quote, "Many Americans died in China's quest for victory and glory." And he said, "I hope that they are rightfully honored and remembered for their bravery and sacrifice," meaning the United States and its role in this, which the CCP is celebrating really a false victory, saying that they did it when, frankly, the CCP barely did anything. And he said this, quote, "May President Xi and the wonderful people of China have a great and lasting day of celebration. Please give my warmest regards to Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un, quote, as you conspire against the United States of America." President Donald J. Trump. Trump basically said, hey, don't forget we did most of the fighting. We basically won the war for you guys. Also, I know exactly what you're up to. Enjoy conspiring against us because we're watching. That said, questions, comments, anything you want to talk about, leave it in the chat. Let's jump into a discussion. So first off, Asha from California, you're saying, good luck with that. Your body will deteriorate. Are you going to get joint and limb transplants? You're talking about Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, and Kim Jong-un talking about using human organ transplants to live forever. They actually said, quote unquote, immortality. They want to become immortals by using the bodies of other people. It's kind of freaky, actually. It's kind of like a Dr. Frankenstein thing when you think about it. You know, on your point, too, I don't think it's going to work. Even if they kill 100 people, you know, even if Kim Jong-un rolls around with like 4 hearts and 3 kidneys and, you know, whatever else, this is the bigger picture with it. When you get an organ transplant, you need to take medication like then and forevermore, or your body's gonna reject the organ. That medication compromises your immune system to a large extent. And so while you might not die from heart failure, not as easily, I mean, you could still have a heart attack with a good heart. It's not like it's impossible. You know, you can still have random health problems, or your body can just reject the organ and you can die anyways, which happens a lot also. But even if you, again, have all healthy organs, but they're somebody else's organs who you killed for their organs, what can also happen is because you're effectively immunocompromised, you get the flu one day and you die. And that's also a very real risk. Just because they're doing this does not mean they're going to live forever like they think they are. You know, on this point also, the bigger narrative with this is live organ harvesting of, again, religious dissidents in China. What's important with that, even aside from what's happening with the CCP itself, even aside from all that, the Chinese Communist Party does organ tourism. And so what the CCP is doing with organ harvesting, it's not just related to China. They try to bring in officials from other countries, hey, come get your organ transplant, you know, we'll kill somebody so you can live. They do it to children. Hey, your kid has you know, a problem. Bring your kid here. We'll murder another child and give your child their organs. They do that. They do this. And this is the real crazy thing. So I've actually talked to doctors who work on, you know, again, there are doctors like Doctors Against Forced Organ Transplant, you know, DAFO, right? Doctors Against Forced Organ Operations, right? You have doctors internationally who work on this. And some of the concerns they've raised are terrifying. They're noting that because the CCP, again, basically does so many organ transplants because they don't have to wait like most countries do. If you try to get a heart transplant in the United States, you get put on a wait list. They wait for somebody to die in a car accident, you know, usually. And then again, you know, the heart, if the person's a donor, the heart goes up for donation or whatever else goes up for donation. You can get the transplant, but again, you have to wait till someone dies and they're a willing donor to get it. In China, it doesn't work like that. Again, it can take months, it can take years. In China, they say, okay, you need a heart transplant. When do you want to have it done? You want to have it done today, tomorrow, next week? Let us know, because all they have to do is just pull someone off the shelf, murder them, and take their heart. Because the CCP has the policy of murdering people for their organs through the government. In fact, it's mostly military hospitals. It's mostly the Chinese military doing it. Because, again, they run hospitals. Because they do it so often, the Chinese Communist Party is becoming the quote-unquote leader in organ transplants. It's not even just organs. They take the skin. They skin people. I mean, horrifying stories. Even outside of using religious believers, some of the stories of how they take people's skin is disgusting. There was a story that came out, and this was an actual criminal, but still, like, you know, criminals are still human beings, right? And again, you never know with the CCP because they don't necessarily have a good judicial system. Like, the guy might have been innocent. They needed organs, They took a criminal, and like, you know, again, a guy accused of actual crimes, not like because he believed in God, right? Like an actual criminal, allegedly. They shoot him in the head. The guy doesn't die. They shot him in the head, he doesn't die, right? He's still alive. They say the doctors go on this guy, like there were articles on this. This is documented stuff, right? The doctors go on this guy like piranhas in a feeding frenzy. Because they have to act quickly, cut his organs out. The guy is still alive while they're doing it, and they skin him while he's still alive. And that is the lighter end of it, right? That is the lighter end of what it looks like, because that guy was, you know, a criminal. And I think even that is horrifying. The scary thing is when they do it to religious believers, or to where they're at now, where they're running out of religious believers and they're scooping people up off the streets and doing it. There are terrifying videos going viral in China right now where you have people dressing up like doctors or police, and they're grabbing people off the streets and stuffing them in the back of vehicles. And there's a lot of concerns in China that these are organ traffickers and they're abducting people for their organs. There's a lot of concerns about this. There was a video going viral in China. They grab a woman off the street. She's screaming for help, saying, "I don't know who these people are. I did nothing wrong. They're kidnapping me." But because the human traffickers, again, or the human organ traffickers, they just, you know, put on uniforms and act like they're police, or maybe they are police and just corrupt. They can do whatever they want. In China, under the Chinese Communist Party, they have destroyed people's empathy to a very large degree. This is why you can have a truck driver run over like a 2-year-old child, and 20 people walk by a child dying on the ground and don't do anything to help. They've been conditioned to not care about it. It is terrifying, the lack of empathy that has been instilled in some people by the Chinese Communist Party, because it destroyed religion, it destroyed morality, and it destroyed culture. The lack of care for another human being is horrifying. It's like a nightmare. Now, on that front, the Chinese Communist Party mainly uses Falun Gong practitioners for its organ transplants. This has been affirmed by international bodies, including, for example, in the United Kingdom, where a tribunal held its own court determined, yes, in fact, the Chinese Communist Party does harvest the organs of religious believers, the largest group being Falun Gong practitioners. Falun Gong or Falun Dafa, it's basically Tai Chi. You know, like you ever see people doing like slow movements in the parks? It's basically that combined with like Buddhist moral teachings. That's basically what Falun Dafa is. Buddhist moral teachings combined with like Tai Chi meditation. Effectively, that's what it looks like for most of the world, right? The problem the CCP had was there were too many people practicing, 70 to 100 million by 1999. And when the Chinese Communist Party determined there's too many people practicing, what do? The former head of the Chinese Communist Party, Jiang Zemin, says, destroy it, destroy their reputations, destroy them physically, kill them. Bankrupt them, this was the quote, bankrupt them, destroy their reputations, destroy them physically. Kill them, defame them, rob them, basically. They launched campaigns of mass persecution and then created propaganda to justify it. Most media outside of China has been repeating the CCP's propaganda justifying the persecution. And so when New York Times does these fake articles saying, oh, the Chinese Communist Party calls it a cult, there's nothing saying it's a cult other than the CCP saying it. That is the basis of that entire argument. And then you have all these other media just repeating it because the CCP says it. It's like saying, you know, a guy goes to the gym once a week. You know, the government says it's illegal to do it. And so if you go to the gym once a week, you're part of like a dangerous movement and we're going to kill you for your organs for it. And the whole world turns a blind eye to it because they don't know what the guy is doing because it's like a workout method they're unfamiliar with. That's basically what it is. The lack of empathy of the world, businesses, investors, as this is taking place is horrifying. The lack of empathy of governments turning a blind eye to such a massive atrocity happening as we speak is horrifying. Now, I should note, to the benefit of the United States, most of Congress has actually condemned the live organ harvesting of Falun Gong practitioners. In fact, it was almost unanimous. In the House of Representatives, they did pass the Falun Gong Protection Act, acknowledging the CCP is in fact doing this. There have been many petitions signed, affirmed on this. Most of the House of Representatives has affirmed this is happening. Most of the House of Representatives have actually stepped forward to defend Falun Gong against the CCP. It still hasn't gone through the Senate yet, but for the most part, that has happened. In the United Kingdom, again, a tribunal has determined this. In Canada, the Canadian government has come out very supportive of Falun Gong, has acknowledged the persecution is happening, and has stood against it, as have other countries, including Germany and others. And so, there are governments calling it out, but the problem is a lot of the media doesn't report it. For the most part, a lot of news outlets are eating out of the CCP's hand, and they're repeating Chinese Communist Party propaganda, ironically designed to justify the persecution. And unfortunately, what that means is a lot of what people hear about the persecution is just the CCP fake propaganda. People are being propagandized to look down on a group of people being murdered solely for trying to be good people. That's what's happening. People trying to be kind, to be honest, and who believe in, peacefully enduring are being murdered, and the world is being taught to think badly of them because the CCP says so. It is horrifying. Where have people's consciences gone? Anyways, on that point, the other problem you're going to have is this. The Chinese Communist Party, because they've now created a business, an international business of murdering people for their organs. You can say, well, I don't know what this group is. Why do I care? Or, I don't know them well enough to say whether I care about it or not. It's moving on to other groups because they're running out of people to kill. They're moving on to other people. They're even doing it in other countries now. There were reports coming out, for example, in different parts of the Middle East where they're killing children for their organs. They're trafficking kids for their organs. They're killing dissident groups for their organs. There were reports of people fleeing Ukraine, and Russian or Slavic organ harvesters and organ traffickers are taking people's kids and taking people and killing them for their organs as well. This is moving to other countries because the world has turned a blind eye to it. It's happening in Latin America. Cartels are doing it now because it's a business. And it's a business the world has turned a blind eye to and allowed to happen. The longer the world turns a blind eye to this, the longer the world does not condemn it, the longer the world does not stand up to it, the more this is going to happen and the more it's going to become normalized. As the CCP now is talking with the leaders of Russia and North Korea on this, they're going to be normalizing this. And as they normalize it, you have to understand, and I'm not trying to preach too much here, there's two forces that regulate international power, okay? You have the above-board systems, and then you have the below-board systems. Not every country engages in this, but a lot of them do. You have the surface world, and you have the underworld. Many countries want to control both. What do I mean by that? The Chinese Communist Party has its front organizations. On the surface, you have outreach, you have community organizations, you have corporate investment outreach. Tied with that, you have the criminal organizations, you have the triads, the Chinese mafia. The CCP controls both. They're engaged in, let's say, above-board operations. Hey, let's start a business in your country. They're also, the same groups are involved in below-board operations. Hey, let's bribe this official. Let's traffic these people. Let's bring drugs into the United States. This is why it's coming out of the CCP is the main force behind the fentanyl epidemic, right? They're the drug traders. They're involved in the drug trade. Same thing in most of Latin America. You have the above-board operations, the governments, and the many good things they do. And a lot of them are tied in with the cartels. They run the criminal underworld as well. They run the above situation and they run the below situation. They control both. Same thing with Russia. The Russian mafia is deeply tied in with the Russian government. Same thing with North Korea. The government itself is an underworld economy. What are the main trades of North Korea? Drugs, counterfeiting of cash, and arms trafficking. That's their economy. They're a global underworld economy. In fact, a lot of the weapons they sell are they're the two largest arms traffickers in Iran. They're the two largest arms traffickers in most of the Middle East. They're an underworld economy. And if you start adding into the underworld economy globally human organ trafficking, that is going to become, let's put it this way, how hard is it to get an illegal gun? Kind of hard because, it's supply and demand, right? You can buy guns in the United States. It's not that hard in other countries. If you go to Latin America, Brazil, Mexico, where guns are regulated and controlled by the government, you can easily buy an illegal firearm. Drugs are banned in the United States. How well has that worked? How hard is it to find drugs? What's going to happen when they add human organs to the list of products? In some countries, that's already happening. In some countries, that is already normal. And that is going to become bigger as it is continually allowed to happen. And unfortunately, I would say the media is partly responsible for this, for the covering up of the genocide of Falun Gong and the live organ harvesting of Falun Gong practitioners, because they don't want to make the CCP mad. That's the truth of it. They don't want to offend the Chinese Communist Party, so they let it happen. That is the truth of what's happening. Thank you all so much, and as always, please take care of yourselves, stay informed, stay free. Thank you.